There has been over the last decade or so a phenomenal production growth in horticulture, not just horticulture, in most perishable goods. You see fish, we've become the second largest producers of fish. See horticulture, second largest producers of horticulture, and we are going to this year touch 315 million tons in horticultural output. So it's not a misnomer. What has happened is that the prior focus has been a legacy of our mindsets from the Green Revolution, produce more so that there's more supply. We've tended to ignore the fact that supply is unfulfilled without a delivery mechanism. So what's lacking has been making sure supply connects with consumers. The delivery mechanisms, ergo logistics, cold chain, is where the future focus of all development organizations, policy thinkers has to now shift into. Now what has happened is, as they focused on production, the associated development of connectivity from production zones to consumption zones. Coincidentally, all our urban cities are consolidated centers of consumers. So our farms have to be linked with our urban cities and probably even across borders to international cities. That development aspect took a while to catch on. That is what NCCD has been promoting and driving, bringing about this mindset change from blind focus on production to focus on delivery. You mentioned farmers' plight being a politically driven agenda. Well, actually, it is a genuine plight. Farmers who produce more are not getting an associated increase in incomes. A very converted relationship is born out of production and income in this sector. Higher you produce, lesser income. Immediate inference. The more you produce, that production does not get converted into delivery, into supply in the hands of consumers. Something is getting lost in transit. Hence, higher the production, higher the losses, and continued high price. As far as potato goes, phenomenal. This year we'll be touching 50 million tons in production. We have to start looking for new markets now. Potato is not natural to India. Came from Ireland. It's a Peruvian source. We have only one season to produce. Luckily, it's one crop which can be stored across seasons. Cold stores allowed farmers to produce more and drip feed the market all through the year. It's become a staple food. However, majority of horticultural crops, even in the best of temperature controlled environments, will buy you holding life of a few weeks, not months, not across seasons. Now that time that you buy through application of technology is best utilized by connecting with ready markets, existing markets. Now if I store tomatoes in a cold store, and no matter how much technology you apply, cooling technology that you apply for tomatoes, it will never have a longer holding life than a few weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks at best. Now, if I take it out after 3 weeks and then try to connect with market, they'll have aged. They will not survive the trip to market. Idea is cool them, buy more selling life, then quickly, rapidly evacuate, store close to markets. Hence the concept of cold storage as distribution hubs rather than cold storage as bulk storing hubs. Bulk storing is a business model for hoarding and selling at a later stage. Distribution hubs linked with village level pack houses is a model of forward aggregator model. That's what's needed in perishables. You're always fighting against time. NCCD is a bridge. It's a public-private partnership set up by the government with the idea to bring in private sector participation in policy making, guiding policymakers on the right concepts. So we are a bridge in bringing about clarity on past misnomers about the concept of cold chain, agri-logistics as a whole. We also, it's a society of stakeholders. A lot of private industry are members of NCCD. They contribute through our think tanks, through our committees. The private sector has taken cognizance of what NCCD has been outputting. In the past, sadly, there was not much participation of the private sector. Even now, most of the private organizations and corporates look at the retailing side of affairs. Working in the supply chain, in core logistics, and in organizing the source at farm gates is a tough job. I think the private corporates need to step up to it. Not many people realize. Even the typical mindset is Indian farming disallows private sector participation. Nobody realizes that there is 100% FDI automatic route in protected cultivation, high value agriculture, in protected in apiary, beekeeping, in animal husbandry, pisciculture, aquaculture in controlled conditions. So even production is available to the private sector. My own opinion, no, the losses are going up. The very fact that horticulture has surpassed food grain production some years ago, and this year we will be outputting almost 350 million tons, yet horticultural prices are still going up. A simple dynamics of business is, if production is translated into supply for the same sort of demand doesn't vary so much, it grows slowly. Prices must come down. Prices continue to go up. 315 million tons of output is not translating into 315 million tons in sales. So the immediate inference is there are losses. As we are producing more, we are tending to lose more. We do not have effective and efficient enough agri-logistics to handle this flood of production. It's like chappad phad ke barish hoti hai. It rains cats and dogs, and if your drains can't handle it, there's a flooding, and that water is lost. So with production going high, and if efforts are made to reduce the losses by having better delivery systems, there will be yet more supply. Those losses will convert into viable supply. So there has to be a focus on greater exports. We have to look beyond our own boundaries so that farmers get better value realization. It does not mean better price, more volumes get sold, right? So I'm a member of the Committee for Doubling Farmers' Income, which had made some major recommendations on the export front. What the committee had suggested was that every embassy, our embassy system, should have agricultural trade offices. Already movement is happening now that at least 10 major prospective markets should have those. You realize our embassies never focused on agriculture earlier. So there will be more movement towards exports. Ministry of Commerce has taken out with an agri-export policy as well. We were actually hoping, part of the recommendation of the committee was not to target exports merely in dollar terms. The policy says we must double our exports in the next 5 years to about $60 billion. To bring about proper perspective, we should actually be targeting doubling our volumes exported. Agriculture is a state subject. I can give you an example of Haryana, very consciously moving people out of other crops, traditional crops, into horticulture. They have a special scheme which promotes building of more pack houses, getting farmer-producer organizations to club together and operate the next level of activities in the supply chain. Punjab has been doing so. So states have to take their own initiatives, but yes, the awareness is growing phenomenally. Since demand is driving farmers' mindsets for more income, hence, if demand is there for more horticulture, the states are also moving towards horticulture, animal foods, fish, poultry, eggs. Yes, it's growing. The government had already earlier modified the Company Act to allow for farmer-producer companies to be formed. In the last budget, it was announced that farmer-producer companies, as a company, otherwise you're liable to other provisions of the Company Act. In the last budget, they announced farmer-producer companies who have a turnover of less than 100 crores are exempt from income tax. We've also mooted the idea of village producer companies, village producer organizations. Your question infers that some external agency or the government and all is going to fix this. Government provides a very facilitating environment. This fixing affair of creating long-standing solutions should rightfully be driven by private corporates, including farmers themselves as groups. The fixing is not a huge problem. You rightfully mentioned pack houses. When you keep hearing the bane of Indian agriculture is fragmented, it starts off with people saying, oh, the farms are too small. Now you can't address that right away. But if farms are too small, the output can be aggregated. Hence the pack houses. The government has already announced its intention and set up a fund to build 22,000 grameen agricultural markets, which are not merely transactional markets at village level. They have to service as aggregation, pre-cooling, pre-conditioning and dispatch hubs, so that there is regular traffic generated from villages to consumption centers. The past focus on cold stores across all segments was incorrect. Now, if the problem is that a farmer is unable to connect with the right market for the right price, the solution is not to hoard and store those goods at farm gate. The solution is to have agri-logistics, regular communication of value from source to markets, not holding on to value. It's against all business principles. Private corporates are getting in to create more modern pack houses, hopefully also into the play for building so many more grams. It's a huge business opportunity. There's that much more infrastructure in the installation of these, the equipment that will go into it, and then thereafter servicing it. Also, see, what does a pack house do? It aggregates, services the produce and makes it ready to move to market. Packaging is an important part, and if market is far away, they pre-cool it so that it will last the duration. This is called preconditioning. So in the IT Act, this word has now come in, that all services by way of preconditioning agricultural produce is exempt from GST. So the government has laid down a lot of financial and fiscal benefits for the private corporates to take advantage of. Now they have to look at farmers as equals, as business enterprises, not people going through their lives looking at some basic livelihood. They're professionals, they run a business. Agriculture must be seen as an enterprise, and corporates must partner with business enterprises to secure their source.